Hello and welcome to a new Pick a Card reading. In this week's reading, we are taking a look at something that is about to or has come full circle for you. For that purpose, I have chosen 3 different bangles to represent the 3 groups that we have today. We have one oracle card that's already shuffled out. I have not seen them yet. Let me show you the 3 groups. So what is coming full circle for you? Group 1, this is your bangle. There are some lovely butterflies. I don't know if they're butterflies or moths. Could be either. I mean, probably moths. This is a big old statement piece right here. We also have this lovely little crystal to accompany the reading. That is group 1. Group 2, this is your bangle. Let's see if we can focus, perhaps. I want to show you the details. There we go. There's some beautiful turquoise stone in there. Some gold on the inside. Not real gold, but you know. It's definitely costume jewelry. And then along with that, we have this lovely crystal. That is group 2. Group 3, your bangle is all natural. We have a wooden bangle for you. That is group 3 with this lovely squared crystal. So again, we're taking a look at what is coming full circle for you. Group 1, group 2, Group 3. I will give you a moment to zone in or zone out, whichever you need to figure out which group is calling you the most. Timestamps are in the description below, and I will meet you at your reading. Hi Group 1, this is your reading. If you chose the moth or butterfly bangle, you know what? I'm going to just wear it, and we are going to put this crystal up here, and then we're going to start off with your oracle card. So again, we're taking a look at what is coming full circle for you. What I want to do is center this oracle card, and then we're going to pull a couple of tarot cards quite literally in a circle around that, and then we'll close it out with some oracle cards. So for group 1, what is coming full circle for you? Humility. Okay, and notice how I was talking about a circle, right? And we are going to pull some cards in a circle, and I think it's interesting that we have some orbits around this person. Very interesting when we think about when things orbit something, they tend to reoccur. So that this feels very beautifully aligned with the vision that I have for this reading, because I am thinking about, you know, the things that come back around often enough for us to pay attention and be like, wow, that's where that started. Wow, that's why I always do this. With humility, there is an aspect of you gaining a broader understanding, because humility is not just humbling yourself. Humility is understanding your part in things, and it's also accepting that while our experience is inherently self-centered, while you can only engage with the world around you from a self-centered place, that you have the ability to recognize the context of which you are engaging with people. Okay, so essentially this seems like a journey of maturation. This seems like a journey of understanding it's not always about me, and it's not always because of me. You know what I mean? Let's see. Let's pull some tarot cards. For group one, what is coming full circle for group one? What is coming full circle for group one? We have the Sun. We have the Empress. We have the Devil. And we have Judgment. Wow. Okay. So you see how this forms a circle. And when I'm saying we have the King of Swords at the bottom of the deck, I'm gonna keep an eye on that. So when I'm saying what is coming full circle, we're literally talking about this is where we started, then we face some sort of challenge and opposition, and then we bring it home in integrating what we've learned from the challenge, and then we get to embody the essence of where we started in a more authentic way. Okay, so it is a purification process. Whenever something comes full circle, it is a moment of awareness for us. And the way that these cards are coming out is showing me that there may have been a time where you acted very impulsive. Again, we're talking about having a self-centered experience is inherent, right? You cannot, the people that try to live a selfless life, that is admirable, but it's also kind of cheating the system because it's impossible. We lead selfish lives because that's the way that we engage with the universe, with the world, okay? So it's not an inherently bad thing. However, it can be expressed in a negative way, in a harmful way, right? So with the Sun card here, to me this indicates that perhaps in the past there were ways in which you may have prioritized yourself and prioritized your inner child, your impulses, in a way where you centered your needs in sort of like a obvious or loud way, and you may have faced a lot of judgment because of that. And that kind of judgment, that moment when people tell you like, whoa, that's like, you're being loud, you're taking up a lot of space, you're right, it doesn't feel like it was coming from like a self-involved place. It's just you weren't fully aware that maybe most people pretend to not put their own needs so loudly first, right? And so there was some kind of adjustment. There was some kind of, ultimately what's coming full circle is that you are learning how to embody self-care and self-prioritization without it being inherently selfish. Okay? So this definitely has to do with understanding that sometimes there are necessary evils, meaning we cannot let others dictate our life. We have to make difficult decisions at times. Because especially with the Sun and the Devil kind of facing off here, this can have to do with feeling a temptation towards wanting, like, this honestly feels like either life in general or a particular experience has tried to break your spirit. And you may have had people tell you ignorance is bliss, like, oh wow, you're so ignorant, or oh, you don't even know like how bad things are, or something like that, where it's like, okay, maybe you had to kind of be pushed in a position to recognize, okay, maybe I don't know everything, but you're coming full circle to the knowledge that, but also I don't have to lead my life in accordance to those external limitations. This is interesting. I'm seeing a few ways in which this can play out. So Actually, let me roll my dice and see if we can narrow this down a little bit. Because for a lot of you, this has to do with coming full circle back around to your inner child after having been perhaps having matured too quickly, too early, too young, and then having to face like real obligations, and being able to pass that then allows you to kind of re-embrace your inner child and be like, okay, I've created a safe space. Now I can engage with that more. Or for a lot of you, this has to do, because of that humility card, it really has to do with, you know, you got a bitter dose of life. You got a bitter dose of reality, and it has refined, but it has not broken your will. It has not broken your spirit. It has refined. You're smarter, you're quicker, you're faster now. But it has not broken that spirit. It has not broken that feeling of, especially when people say, when somebody comes into a room and they're like, yeah, I'm hot shit. There are going to be some people that say, oh my God, that person is hot shit. And then there are going to be some people that are like, who the hell do they think they are? And that's what I feel like you may have experienced. You walk into a room and you're confident, not because you're full of yourself, but just because why would you have a reason to not be confident, right? And so there's a lot of confidence and self-assurance here. And then there's this negativity of like, who do you think you are? With this, along with this judgment, right? And then that's where you learn how to kind of perhaps manipulate conversations, manipulate situations to maybe not to appear more empowered in humility, but to embrace it more. Because it's not that you have to fake it, it's just that you have to kind of, this feels like you've learned to read the room a little bit better. And so again, that really has a lot to do with social situations, meaning there's not something that you inherently did wrong. It's just that you entered a particular space and you have to navigate that space in a way that that takes into account the variables, which are other human beings and how they perceive us, right? And so I don't necessarily see you dulling your shine. I just see you getting smarter. The vibe that this is giving is, I don't know why, but I'm thinking of Pretty Woman. And specifically when she is like shooed away from the ritzy store because, you know, they think she doesn't have money, so she's not welcome there, right? And she walks in there like not even thinking that would be an issue, because if she can pay, what does it matter what she looks like, right? And then she comes back around with the money and buys all the stuff, right? So that's kind of where I see a little bit of resistance building within you. It's not that you're dulling your shine, it's that you're becoming smarter. You're becoming more skilled at reading the room and understanding how to utilize your shine. The other thing that I'm seeing right now is, you know, when light reflects off of a shiny object and it just kind of goes wherever. My cat always goes crazy when something is reflecting light. But if you use, you know, a magnifying glass or a mirror or something to direct the light, right? Sometimes it catches on your phone and you're just like, whoa, what's shimmering here? And then once you kind of figure it out of like, oh, wait, this is reflecting light. And then you can start manipulating it. You can start using it, right? And manipulating has a negative connotation, but it doesn't have to have that. It's about understanding the light that you refract and reflect and becoming aware of it, because if you're just spinning like a disco ball and it's going everywhere, people are bound to be like blinded, you know, people are bound to be like, oh my God, what are they doing? And so this is really about becoming more self-aware, but also more aware of your ability to control this incredible power that you have. We have the second house, which is the house of values. We have Neptune and we have Scorpio energy. Yeah, that Scorpio energy is kind of like the darker side over here, and also in regards to power. So we're talking about power that may have been confusing because of Neptune, that may have been an illusion, or where you are tempted to elude yourself into thinking this is something that I need to dull, that I need to turn down my light. No, you just have to learn how to direct it, right? And the second house is all about possessions, finances, money, as well as values. Values as in personal values. And I feel like I see that coming through strongly here. All right, let's see. Spirit, in order for group 1 to embrace this process and properly integrate what is coming full circle here, what is an energy to embrace for group 1? We have poet, expresses soul insights in symbolic language. Let me sit with that for a moment. We're definitely learning a lot here. What's coming full circle is, again, you're fine-tuning your ability to read a room, and therefore not to dull yourself, but to direct your powers more efficiently and effectively. And when we're talking about poetry, typically, there are some very long poems, but typically, poetry is about capturing an essence of an emotion into word form, and typically in a very concise way, right? And so I think what's coming full circle is that you are getting rid of a lot of the fluff. Because what's coming through here is, I think previously you've been able to pick up on, when I say reading the room, right, the cues that people give, you've been able to pick up on them. But what's coming through now is that sometimes less is more. And that's not to dull yourself, but again, it's to concentrate your energy, or to focus it, to gain more control over it instead of letting it bleed out. Because the sense that I'm getting is that previously with the Sun card and the Empress card, you were probably very excitable, very engaging. So again, if we're talking about reading a room, I'm seeing a metaphorical room full of people that are maybe a little bit snobbish, and then you enter and you're just excited and you want to connect and you want to, embrace people and you want to shine light on everything. And people are just like, whoa, who do you think you are? But to you, it's like, I'm just trying to look for friends. I'm just trying to connect. I'm just trying to, if everybody showed up that way, it would be a lot more creative. It would be a lot more engaging. It would be a lot more fun. But not everybody is on your frequency. And so unfortunately, you've probably had some experiences where you really got burned, where you really got taken for granted, where you really got miscategorized, where you were probably, I'm having trouble with words in this reading. You were probably accused of being, too loud, too shiny, really. And so poet is when we're talking about poetry, we're talking about condensing things down a little bit, but they do not lose their intensity, right? So what otherwise might fit into a short story gets condensed into poetry, and it's still just as concentrated, it is still just as impactful, but it is a little bit edited. And it is also, poetry also requires the reader of the poetry to do their own work as well, to engage their own understanding. And so what I'm getting here is that you are learning more about how to navigate social situations, and when it comes to your values, how to navigate situations in a way where you are able to not take things so personally, but also not bleed out your empathy for everyone. And it's kind of like you're embracing more of, hey, not everybody gets me, but the people that do get me, they get me and they appreciate me. And the people that don't, maybe they're just not into art, right? Maybe they're just not into poetry. Spirit, what is coming full circle for group 1? We have portal. Let's get a second one here. What is coming full circle for group 1? An invocation. What am I getting here? This feels like you've asked for some kind of change. You've asked for something to be different. You've asked to be taken away, elevated. You've asked to level up in some way. And so that's why something is coming full circle, because there are some experiences that were very negative, that felt very judgmental, that you've experienced. And you may have felt like, okay, why? Remember the metaphorical room full of people that are all kind of snobby? Imagine you've been in that room for a while, and then you go out of that room and you're just like, oh my God, why was I even there? Why was I couldn't connect with anyone there. I just felt like I had to censor myself, like that. I don't want to go back into that room. This feels like asking for a better place to be, where you are going to be better understood. And that is going to come along with the fact that you have learned from that first room, right? You have learned from those experiences. And so the next room that you go into, I don't want you to feel like you have to dim your glow. You have to lose some of your sparkle so that when you go into the next room, you'll not feel as judged. That's not the point. Again, it's about being able to aim the glow, being able to aim your skills, right? And that will make you feel more in control. And then when you enter the next room, I think you're going to enter kind of like a phase of social connection where more people are like you, where more people have gone through similar experiences and are similarly controlled. But therefore, when you do connect, you can recognize that about one another, and therefore recognize some kind of safety, some kind of it's just mutual recognition, I think. And so this definitely feels like you have been praying and seeking for maybe new social spheres, like new friendship groups, because your values didn't align with the people that you'd aligned yourself previously with. So I do think that what's coming full circle for you is that you are stepping into a more accepting and more empowered version of yourself, which is then going to allow you to make choices within your friendships and connections that are going to be more on the same page as you. All right, let's get you one last oracle card, and this one we're going to read from the booklet. Any advice? Any advice for group 1? Ooh. Which one? Okay. We have Under My Umbrella. Let's read that one. That is a number 20. It says compassion, care, friendship, protection. A man is perched on the back of a giant parrot. He is holding an umbrella, which keeps the bird dry from the rain. This man is happy to help. He does not fear climbing up the big bird or a possible nip from her sharp beak. He is optimistic that his small umbrella is good enough to protect the bird from the weather. He is a true friend, aware of the power of a helping touch or smile to brighten someone's day. In turn, he is rewarded with a burst of color in his own life. I love that because we have been talking about, you take up a lot of space, and that is totally a beautiful thing. Energetically, you take up a lot of space, and you should not try to make yourself smaller just because of experiences you've had with people, because there are people that will appreciate the space that you take up, and they will take up just as much space, and you will both, or all of you will be just like in this big bubble of equally and enjoying taking up space, right? This you are not a selfish person. I fear that you have been portrayed as such in the past, but you're learning how to navigate that accusation. And I think through learning how to navigate that, you are stepping into a time, into an era where you are going to have much more authentic social connections, romantic connections, friendships, your relationship with your family, all of that is going to be able to kind of breathe a little bit more at ease, because you will kind of, again, I don't feel you're making yourself smaller, you're just becoming more intentional. I think that's mainly it. So what's coming full circle for you is that your social life is becoming a lot more intentional, a lot more aware. You're integrating through experiences, through negative experiences that you've had, you're integrating a certain level of awareness that really just helps you to feel more empowered within social circles. And it has nothing to do with dulling your shine. It has everything to do with not wasting time on the people that don't get it and that misconstrue your energy, and saving yourself, energetically speaking, for the people that appreciate and honor your largeness, quite frankly, your beauty. I think you're very impressive. You might be very beautiful visually, but also just energetically. I think you're very boisterous and like this energy is giving me like belly laughs and joy of life. And when somebody belly laughs, it's for other people that are along the same frequency as you, they will be infected by your laugh. By people that are below you in your frequency, people that are just, got their own projections going on, they will snicker and be like, why are they laughing so loud? Don't spend time on the people that try to tell you you're laughing too loud, and spend more time with the people that get infected by your laugh. All right? I'm also just realizing, because I'm wearing the bangle, right? And I'm pretty sure that these are moths. So I think it's interesting that we got a moth and the sun card coming out first, like a moth to the sun, like a moth to the light. There's definitely some beauty in that. I'm trying to get there. Trying to get there. Because there's a few ways that can go. I've recently learned, actually, that moths are not necessarily directly attracted to the light. They just use it for orientation. So when they see the sun, they just think that helps them orient themselves, right? So they're not trying to go towards it. They're trying to use it as a cue to where is up. And so that, I think, is coming through, where maybe some people are threatened by your presence because they think, people would flock to you. But it's not so much that it's about you. You are just very much about enjoying each other and enjoying just having fun. Like, I think you have a very childlike disposition in some regards of, for you, even as an adult, it's kind of like coming onto the playground and being like, all right, who wants to be like, we're all friends here, right? Like, who wants to play? And everybody else just being so guarded. And unfortunately, that leads to situations where you may have, gotten the shit end of the stick a couple of times, and that then forces you to kind of, unfortunately, put your guard up. But again, I don't see that dulling your shine. I just see you getting smarter from it, through it. Okay? And therefore, that's also to remind you that in future connections, to trust your instincts, because you're not operating from the same level of ignorance that you used to. Which again, it's not so much ignorance, it's just being a little bit naive because you're, maybe overly optimistic. And so you're not operating from that same level anymore. And it's not to say that it completely took away your optimism, but you're just more aware that there's also other experiences to be had. So the integration of those experiences help you to keep your optimism and your like boisterous energy, to keep that safe, so that it doesn't get crushed by the more experiences that judge you for taking up space. All right, and that's what's coming full circle for you. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really hope that this resonates. Leave me a comment. What'd you think? How'd it make you feel? If not, you can also just leave me an emoji and a thank you. That would be nice. But otherwise, if you would like to book a personal reading, you can do so on my website only. I will never DM you or message you to sell your reading. Please don't get scammed. But I do love doing personal readings. I also offer astrology readings. I offer live readings as well as contactless recorded readings. So go check that out and book a reading. And other than that, I hope I get to read for you again sometime. Until then, take care. Hi, Group 2. This is your reading if you chose this beautiful blue crystal along with this bangle that has some gold and some turquoise. I'm going to put that on, let that guide us through the reading, and then we're going to start off with an oracle card. So we're taking a look at what's coming full circle for you. We're going to keep the oracle card centered, pull a couple of tarot cards in a circle, quite literally, and then we'll pull some oracle cards. Let's see, what is coming full circle? Wow, that's a little intense. We have soul. Immediately I'm paying attention to the fact that, the depiction here is a physical body and then a smaller body that I'm assuming represents the soul, right? And I'm immediately drawn to how that is kind of represented in the bangle as well. Because if you take a look, there are these gold circles and then like little shards of turquoise in there. Interesting. And so if we're talking coming full circle, this may have to do with some aspect of a past life coming through. But we'll see. We'll see what else comes out, because that might just be for a few of you, that there are kind of themes of a past life. And it doesn't have to be a literal past life. It could also be something about you're recognizing themes and patterns throughout different phases of your life. Now, this isn't for everyone, but some people have very significant, drastic phases in their life where it's like, oh yeah, that's when I was, living out there. That's when I was over here. That's when I had this career. That's when I was all into this kind of fashion, where, like the decades might be exactly discernible in terms of like, wow, that was a whole persona that then completely switched. And in that case, if we're talking about coming full circle, especially if you are the kind of person that changes themselves visually a lot, like your clothing style or your aesthetic has over the years completely shifted. There may be some aspects to even your social situations may have completely shifted. So there may be some aspects where you're like, who am I even? And that's where this card is saying what's coming full circle is that the essence of you has always been the same. The essence of you when you were a child, when you were a teenager, when you were a young adult, when you were an an old adult, the essence of you is always there in all of the actions that you took, especially if you are dealing with some grief or with some regrets over decisions made or not made. Spirit is saying the essence of you is always there. Like there's some real integration taking place here. And the tarot cards I'm going to pull next, we're going to pull in a small circle, and that's exactly what that is going to reflect. We're going to take a look at kind of where it started off and how does it come full circle, meaning what is the challenge and then opposition, and then how do we integrate those challenges and opposition into our rooted self. How do we integrate that? And then that brings us back around to full circle, because when we integrate it, we make it part of our personality, kind of like a you know how there's like beta testing and beta versions of apps? It's kind of like, you know, we have one version and then it gets updated to a new version of self. And for you, I mean, that's kind of the theme of today's reading in general, but for you, it seems like that is even more so highlighted because we're talking about integration on a soul level. For group 2, what is group 2? Bringing full circle. What is coming full circle for group 2? We have the Hanged Man. What is coming full circle for group 2? Yeah, this is this may be a very spiritual epiphany for you. This may just be a very strong, this could be a strong awakening that triggers you to release a lot of material possessions, because this could just have to do with really opening your eyes to the fact that all that matters is the soul, and like the essence of you can come through no matter what your aesthetic is, no matter what your lifestyle is, right? It just feels like something undeniable that is undeniably you. Okay, here we have the Sun card. I feel like you may have had a hard time figuring out who you are. Maybe you have had so many different lives, maybe so many different lifetimes within your one life, so many different styles. You might be a little bit of a chameleon. And so you may struggle to figure out, what do I like? What do I want? Like, I feel like I get caught up in these things and then I follow them, but then all of a sudden I'm like, I'm done with them. So was that never really me? There's a lot of questioning happening here, especially because of the Hanged Man, because that's already where you're starting off. There's a lot of introspection and questioning of like, who am I? I mean, I told you that first card came out is very intense from the get-go. Wow. Yeah, this is a very, very spiritual vibe, although it doesn't have to feel inherently spiritual to you. Wow, we have the Devil card at the bottom of the deck. Interesting, in group 1, the Sun and the Devil came out as well, opposing, and I did shuffle, so that is interesting that they're coming out again together. We have the Hierophant at the underneath that. All right, let's dissect this a little bit. Okay, so what's coming full circle for you? We're starting off with the Hanged Man, which is an energy of stillness, of kind of like waiting things out, trying to envision them in your mind before taking action. And then the challenge here is taking action and feeling confident about it, and then trusting. So the part that you're integrating, what's coming full circle, is having the confidence in yourself, this just feels like an inner knowing of who you are. And yet you are becoming. Okay, so first of all, you are drawn here for a reason, right? I am Pluto's eye. A lot of times when I get a chance to look at my clients' natal charts, it turns out that they are also Plutonian. It's possible, it's not the case for everyone, but it happens a lot that the people that are drawn to my readings also have very strong Pluto aspects. And now, regardless of whether you have that or not, the quality of energy that I'm seeing here has a lot to do with becoming, and that is very Plutonian. It's constant becoming. Just the way, and I know it sounds corny, but just the way that onions have layers, right? They grow layers. And think about even just the rings on a tree, and how the rings as they form, like they shape differently, right? Even though they are of the same tree and each ring will impact the next one, they're still there's still irregularities within those rings, even when they are all encompassed by the same tree, ultimately. And there's something here where you have gone through many different versions of yourself. And I think what's coming full circle is that you are realizing, or you are on a journey to realize that every one of those versions of you was valid and is you. You are every one of those versions. And just because you've outgrown it doesn't mean it isn't you. Just because you've outgrown it doesn't mean that it doesn't still inform who you are today. This is very introspective energy. It has a lot to do with kind of self-analysis and perhaps getting stuck in that self-analysis at times. And then really, it's almost like you have a hard time committing to something. So then when you do, it's like, okay, I'm making this my whole personality. And then you feel like it becomes too much. And then it's like, okay, well then I reject this completely. Sometimes people talk about this when it comes to like safe foods. Some people have a hard time eating or feel overwhelmed with the choice of food, right? And so it's easy to find a comfort meal and then just constantly eat that one. And so then for a week straight, I currently have a salad that I'm constantly eating. It's like I'm just eating that, and I know one of these days I'm gonna get sick of it and then I'm gonna have to take a break from it, right? And that's kind of what it feels like. Like you may have a very like rich internal life, and then when it comes to external life, you're very exact about your aesthetic, about what, the way that you present yourself. And again, there may have been some extreme shifts that take place there, because once you grow out of that, you're like, oh, I don't want any of it. I don't want it touching me. I don't want it around. I don't want it in my house. I just feel like you go through these phases of collecting and then completely like rejecting, collecting and rejecting, collecting and rejecting. And Spirit is saying that's okay, because you may struggle understanding that, hey, that's what you're supposed to do. You're meant to experience yourself in as many versions as you feel like, right? I do feel like with the Devil card, I do feel like there is some judgment there, and there is kind of some impatience there, and there's almost like this pressure of like trying to figure yourself out. And I think what's coming full circle is that you are accepting this a lot more with the Temperance card, right? You're accepting that you don't have to be one particular thing, that you are meant to just engage with whatever it is that you feel drawn to at the moment. So this is bringing in a lot more acceptance for yourself. I'm also thinking that you may want to engage in a lot more acceptance when it comes to self-talk, considering we have a lapis lazuli here, and you have a very rich internal life. It's interesting because I do feel like I'm picking up a lot of like insecurity, and yet to the outside world, I think you present yourself as very much like, this is who I am, this is what I believe in, this is what I like. But again, that changes. And then it's almost like you have to it's almost like you constantly have to outshine yourself. Ooh, that's deep. You constantly feel like you have to outshine yourself. But what's coming full circle is that it is all you. There's a lyric that's trying to come through. It's a Jay-Z song, but I can't get it. It's something about he says something about basically that he's his own worst competition, right? His own worst enemy. Oh my God, which line is trying to come through? I don't know. He has a lot of songs where he says that, so is one of them. But that is definitely coming through. Like, you are, first of all, your own worst critic, but also your own worst competition here. And so with the fact that we got the Soul card, it's just a reminder of, like, remember that you are on your own team, okay? You don't have to outdo yourself. This almost feels like always having to top yourself, right? Especially, and it doesn't have to be like major life phases. It can be as simple as whenever you post a picture to your Instagram, you feel like you constantly have to outdo yourself. You constantly have to, like, everything feels like a statement with these energies. And so Spirit is saying that what's coming full circle is that you're becoming more accepting of all those different phases of you, and therefore integrating it more. It's almost like, so I remember growing up in school, we talked about the concept of a melting pot versus a salad bowl. So socially speaking, a melting pot is when a country allows, traditionally speaking, the US used to be considered a melting pot. Because it was, a lot of different ethnicities and cultures coming together and melding together, versus a salad bowl. I believe that Australia used to be considered a salad bowl because cultures would come together, but they still maintain their own traditions, and so they coexist, but they don't merge, they don't meld together, right? And for some reason that's coming through here in terms of all of the different versions of you, that you've kind of compartmentalized. You may compartmentalize in general when it comes to, like, your relationships, your friendships, anything like that. You compartmentalize a lot. And Spirit is saying, like, you're trying to keep things apart that are inherently connected. Ooh, that's deep. You are trying to keep you're trying to tell yourself it's a salad bowl. No, baby, you're a melting pot. You are trying to keep things apart that are inherently connected and one built upon the other. So they are all versions of you, and they all deserve to be celebrated, and they all were brought to life by your essence, which is your soul. This is a very fascinating reading. Love that. We have the 7th house, we have North Node energy, and we have Virgo. I told you, very contemplative, right? This definitely is giving, like, the tension between how do other people perceive me? How am I presenting myself? Seems very important, and not necessarily in a shallow way, not at all. It's just that you're trying to understand yourself in relation to others. The 7th house is the house of relationships. North Node energy is concentrated focus. Virgo is very analytical and very much an energy that compartmentalizes. So that is very much in line with what we were talking about. All right, Spirit, for group 2, in order for group 2 to fully embrace and integrate what is coming full circle for them, what is an energy to embrace, an archetype to grow towards? Ooh, we have Lover. I like that. It says great passion and devotion, unbridled appreciation of someone or something. And you know what it is? You know what you're supposed to have unbridled appreciation of? Yourself. Every flawed and perfect version. Every flawed and perfect version of yourself is meant to be loved. Look at this. So we have, this is the energy you're supposed to embrace more of, right? And this card comes out over this. Look at how she's holding this heart, and look at this tiny, tiny body has a big heart in it. Okay? So this is about loving yourself for every version that you have been and every version that you are still going to become. So that is so beautiful to think about, because we're asking what is coming full circle for you. And it's really just this ability to not limit yourself, to not say like, oh, this is who I am now and that's who I have to be, right? And also not pressuring yourself to find any kind of particular perfect expression of you, because you are many things and you are going to be many more things. So I love that. Lover. All right. Let's get you some more oracle cards. Spirit, can we get some advice when it comes to group 2 and this energy that is coming full circle for group 2? I want to touch again on the fact that I was talking about the endless becoming, especially because when we're talking about full circle, by the time we come down here, the integration part is you being more accepting, being more clear on who you are, and therefore being more accepting of yourself. And then we come back to the Hanged Man, where we integrate that acceptance, and then that allows us to be like, well, then who do I want to be today? Okay, and then the next day, who do I want to be today? And it's about you discovering more and more about yourself. It's really you getting to, this is almost like, this energy feels kind of like as a child when you got to play dress up and you went through, you know, your sister's or your mother's closet and tried on all the stuff, all the clothes, all the jewelry, just trying it all on because it's like, how does this fit? Who am I, right? This is really about allowing yourself to go deeper, to go further, to explore more about who you are and also who you aren't in that process, but to love yourself for each version. What is coming full circle for group 2? Any advice? We have Don't Let In, and we're going to get one more. Oops, I said one. Okay. All right, we have Don't Let In. That one, right? So when we're talking about the devil, especially with the Hierophant, this has to do with not giving in to the idea of this is what you must do, not giving in to the idea of conservatism, and not on a political scale, but I mean on like a way of like, no, you've already been this many people, you're supposed to be one kind of person. Like this is you know, the Hierophant is the Pope, and the Pope doesn't care about your self-expression. The Pope cares that you pay your dues to the church, right? And so this is very much about like not falling into any kind of image of self just because you think that's what's expected of me, okay? And then we have Clarity and Seasons. Now seasons, again, every expression of yourself has served a season. We have seasons for a reason, right? Every version of you, even when that older version of you has made some decisions that you regret now, that you're not happy about now, that version still deserves your compassion, because that version did what they thought they needed to do, wanted to do, had to do, given the information that they had at the time, okay? So this is about gaining clarity on who you are and not letting anyone else decide for you who you are, because your soul already knows who you are. Oh, this is a beautiful reading. And especially when it comes to committed partnerships, because we have the 7th house here, to not let a partner dictate who you are or aren't. Okay, we are going to get one last oracle card, and this one we're going to read from the booklet. Spirit, for group 2, can we get any last advice for group 2? I'm like a bird. I always fly away. Sorry. I am not a singer. But when we get like a bird, you gotta sing like a bird. I don't know where my home is. That's so fitting for this. I don't know where my soul is. All I know is I'm like a bird. I always fly away. Ah. Okay, listen to that song if you need to. It says, that is a 22. Focus, forward-looking, possibilities, motivation. A woman full of expectations looks into the future. There are no boundaries to what she can accomplish. Like the bird next to her who flies strong and direct, she knows now is the time for focused energy. You may have found yourself losing motivation lately or questioning your decisions. The key to recapturing your passion lies in readjusting your focus to unlock creativity. Surround yourself with activities or people who make you feel inspired. They can be the breath of wind under your wings. I also love the intuitive nature of that, to know when to spread your wings, to know when to fly, right? Especially because the Hanged Man came out first. That's a very prominent energy for you, and it has a lot to do with contemplation. So try not to get caught up again in the contemplation of how am I being perceived? What do other people see? Or do not get caught up in contemplating any kind of like self-confinement, because I do feel like, right, you go through these phases. Again, we were talking about collecting and then rejecting, or collecting and then rejecting, and so maybe we can soften that process a little bit, right? We don't have to reject so harshly. It's really just about knowing that when you're being called to a new version of yourself, that just like a bird, it's just time to migrate, right? It's not, it doesn't have to be that everything that came before that was wrong. It's just everything that came before that came before that. And then everything that comes ahead is what's ahead. So this is really about accepting yourself. What's coming full circle is kind of like this calm. With the Temperance card and the Hanged Man, it does feel like a better understanding of self, and kind of just like a time of being comfortable with yourself. So I love that. That is a beautiful thing to embrace, especially if you've been dealing with some sort of negative judgment or people trying to tell you who you should be, right? It can be an act of rebellion to then be comfortable with who you are. It can be an act of rebellion. All right, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really hope it resonates. If you would like to book a personal reading, you can do so on my website. I will never DM you, message you to sell you a reading. Please don't get scammed by fake accounts. But you can book readings. I do contactless readings. I do live readings. I do astrology, natal chart readings. You can find all of that on my website, which is linked below. I would love to do a personal reading for you sometime, but other than that, I hope I get to read for you again sometime, and until then, take care. Hi, Group 3. This is your reading if you chose this lovely square crystal that almost looks like cotton candy. We're going to set that up here, and we are going to put on our lovely little wood bangle. And then we're going to take a look at your card. I have not seen this yet. This oracle card is going to remain centered in your reading. Then we're going to pull just a couple of tarot cards around it in a circle. And then we'll pull some more oracle cards to close out the reading. So we are asking, what is coming full circle for you? And we have soften. Okay. So it can be quite literal, meaning you might be softening emotionally, you might be softening when it comes to kind of harsh views that you've had, or expectations that you've had in others or in yourself. Now, this looks kind of like a candle that is slowly burning, right? And so when we're thinking about a candle, especially having the light up on the head, there might be some sort of illumination that is taking place, meaning some kind of epiphanies, some kind of realizations that help you to see things in a different light. We're going to pull some tarot cards. So like I said, we're going to pull them in a circle, and essentially where we're going to start is where you first started, and we're asking what's coming full circle. So typically that includes kind of a challenge, an obstacle, an opposition, and then how you integrate that challenge and opposition into your understanding. How you integrate that then leads us to closing the circle. It'll make sense once all the cards are out. So for group 3, what is coming full circle for group 3? What is coming full circle? Wow. Absolutely. See, that is impressive, that we're going from Emperor, and then the center card is Soften, and we're starting off with the Emperor, meaning, yeah, you were quite strict or stern or resolute in some area of your life that is probably requiring some softening for some reason. So let's see. What is coming full circle for group 3? We have the Hanged Man. So the Emperor is very action driven, and so going from the Emperor to the Hanged Man definitely indicates that there may have been some slowdowns, there may have been some obstacles that really kind of put you in your place in terms of you wanted to take action but you couldn't. That there was an element of loss of choice, but it was for a higher reason, because the Hanged Man typically gains consciousness because of the position that he's in, meaning he gains some sort of epiphany, some sort of perspective. So whatever this was, or whatever this is definitely something that allows you a different perspective that is necessary for you to embrace, even if it is through a negative experience. Ooh, and we have the Star card. Okay, see, this I like, because when we have the Star card opposing the Emperor, this is delicate energy, but it is not weak energy. It's delicate because it is hopeful. The Emperor has to be very grounded in what is real, what is possible. The Star card does not have to be grounded in that way. The Star card is about what do we want? What do we wish for? What do we hope for? What do we need to feel healed? What do we need to feel rejuvenated? The Emperor is very much just so rooted in reality, which is very empowering, but can also be limiting when we are not able to use that in an embracing way is coming through for some reason. Let's see, what's coming out at the bottom? What's coming full circle for group 3? And we have the Knight of Wands. At the bottom of the deck we have Justice. And then just a reminder, the card in the middle was Soften. Okay, so I'm just thinking of the fact that the bangle is wood, and the wood and the Emperor feels sort of connected. He's also sitting on a wood throne in this depiction. I feel like what's coming full circle for you has a lot to do with nourishing your power. because living in just a grounded realm makes you feel like something's missing. It just kind of takes the magic out of things. And so, in terms of what's coming full circle, I'm seeing there's an element of hope and of just dreaminess that is becoming that almost challenges you. Okay, wait. I'm trying to narrow this down because it's a very particular dynamic, and one is like hyper realistic and hyper pragmatic, and the other one is much more inspired. And it's like you do require both of them in order for you to take action. Because while we have the Hanged Man here, this is the challenge that the Emperor has. It's like the Emperor has all the resources and knows how to get shit done. But if he doesn't feel inspired, then he's not going to start anything new. And that's saying something, because typically the Emperor is Aries energy. It wants to start new, right? But I feel like this Emperor here may at times get too comfortable and lack the inspiration to start something new. They'd rather just maintain. And so with the Hanged Man, then once it becomes a challenge through a changed perspective, then we see something that is maybe less practical. So for some of you, this may have to do with a spiritual awakening, and that then informing your career in a very particular way. Meaning that, maybe we feel very limited in what we're doing, and then it is through that limitation that we start to dream beyond the limitation, and then that sparks a plan to take action, right? But it's very interesting that whenever we come back around to, all right, well then, this is an ignition of inspiration. And then when we try to implement it, it's always because as things go full circle for you, this has a lot to do with the imagination. So when it comes to implementing it, there's always kind of more that you can dream. And now that I say that, I'm thinking of this crystal, and I am completely blanking on what the name of the actual crystal is, but I know that this one in particular is meant to really help you with dreaming, and in particular lucid dreams. And so when we're talking about lucid dream, that's what I'm getting here. Yep, that makes sense. Lucid dreaming. Now that can stand as a metaphor. It doesn't have to mean that you're literally engaging with lucid dreaming, but lucid dreaming is the act of being able to control your actions within a dream. That's when you become aware of the fact, like, oh, I'm dreaming. Oh, cool. That means I can do whatever. That's what I'm seeing here, because it's kind of like this is very much very stern and stubborn energy. But then once we realize, oh, wait, it's all in my head. There's some kind of limitations. But there's also some kind of arrogance in facing those limitations that comes through the Hanged Man of like, oh wait, that's all in my head. Well, if it's all in my head, then there is no limit, right? And then that's where we get inspired. And then maybe we experience some real limitations that again set us in our place. But ultimately, I think what's coming full circle for you is that you are taking a lot more inspired action towards what you really want. And that is either in theory, or this is in regards to your career. It can have a lot of different implications. With the Justice card at the bottom of the deck, this may even have to do with a contract, where something is coming full circle in regards to a contract. For some of you, I will say that contract, oh, this is coming through strongly right now. It may be that what's coming full circle is that there is a renewal of contract for you. And then that would have to do with an employer and you're not sure, maybe you're being toyed with, maybe the terms of the contract are unclear, but you are the star. You are the element that is meant to be pursued. And so that's just for a few of you. For a few of you, there is what's coming full circle has to do with a contract for an employer that maybe is taking longer to come back around or to be finalized. Remember, we are currently right now, in just a couple more days until April 25th, we are still in Mercury retrograde. And then after that, we have the post-shadow phase in terms of contracts. But this feels like there's some kind of contract that maybe took a while to really kind of get down, to really kind of finalize. But then when it does, it's the cause for inspired action towards like, all right, well, now we can get this thing going. So that's interesting. What's underneath the Justice card? We have the Two of Swords. So that indicates that if there is some kind of contract that you're considering, if it is about the renewal of a contract, this is really talking about taking all of your options into consideration with the Two of Swords, yeah, and the Seven of Cups underneath that. That's really about taking all of your options into consideration, making sure that you're really informing yourself, educating yourself on what it is that you're agreeing to and not just rushing into something so you don't get stuck in some kind of cycle. Now, back to the fact that the Softened card was here in that regard, if we're talking about some kind of contract, if we're talking about some kind of work thing, this may have to do with not expecting the worst, right? Not expecting the worst to play out. Interesting. I'm trying to, let me think, how can I flip this? Because if we're talking about the Emperor being an employer, it can still also just have to do with an employment situation, some kind of contract situation. But if you are still the Emperor, then that would still have to do with just the authority of like, should I sign this contract? Should I engage in this? And if that is the case, this reading is not going to tell you if you should or shouldn't, but it's really more so about not just looking at the numbers, not just looking at the bottom line, because there are things that you are comparing to each other that do not directly compare, right? Because maybe one argument is very logic based and the other argument is very emotion based. You can't compare those, right? The emotional argument may hold more weight simply because it is an emotional argument. Just something to consider. All right, we have the 8th house. We have Mercury and we have Scorpio. Yeah, absolutely. I think for some of you, this definitely has to do with some kind of contract where other people may end up having some sort of control over you, or, some sort of financial implications. So the 8th house is definitely a house of, it's a dark house of sex, death, and transformation. But ultimately what the 8th house talks about is the areas of life that we don't have control over, the areas of life where we have to work with forces that are out of our control. Mercury is very much about communication, also paperwork such as contracts, legal contracts, right? Scorpio is naturally very comfortable in the 8th house. It is very much a darker energy, and it is a very meticulous energy. And so when we're talking about that kind of energy in regards to this has a lot to do with authority over self and not allowing anyone else to make decisions for you, but you have to be, again, inspired action. You have to feel confident in taking action. If you are showing up as the Emperor, yes, the reading said what's coming full circle is that you're softening more. That doesn't mean you're giving up any of your power. That doesn't mean you're giving up any of your authority, but you are making room for inspiration, right? Because an Emperor who is just looking at the bottom line, just looking at cold, hard facts, is not a merciful ruler, right? And so no matter what it is that you are an authority over, no matter who you're working with, this has very much to do with how can you be the kind of authority, the kind of power that rules in a holistic way, that makes decisions in a holistic way, that takes into account the cold hard facts, but also the emotional and the spiritual implications of decisions. I'm telling you, these two cards keep coming back as inspired action, because otherwise the Emperor is just sitting there all day saying yes, no, yes. This is the flair that allows for innovation, right? Because an emperor that is not embracing this softened energy will not allow for any kind of newness, will not allow for any innovation in the kingdom, because it's kind of like, well, the bottom line is this: if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? This is taking that and putting it on its head and saying like, well, if it ain't, I don't even know where I'm going with that. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If we turn that on its head, it's like, what can we fix because we haven't noticed that it isn't broken, or that we could do it better? Like there's just kind of like this feeling of not taking your own authority as the like end of the line. Meaning, when you seek your own counsel and you come to a decision, you go through it. We don't want analysis paralysis, but it's not like your point of view is not the end of what's possible. I hope that makes sense. Because this is very much about keeping your mind open and being open to other perspectives, to other points of view, and being a merciful ruler towards yourself and others, being a merciful ruler, which requires you, again, to be holistic in your approach. All right, let's get you some oracle cards. Spirit, for group 3, can we get an aspect, an energy for group 3 to grow towards in order to fully integrate this energy? Yep, absolutely. This makes so much sense. We have the Fool. Because it is about not taking yourself so serious, right? That's why we have the Soften card, we have the Fool. It says, fearlessly revealing emotion, helping people laugh at absurdity and hypocrisy. This is about what's coming full circle, is that you are becoming less rigid. That doesn't mean that you're going to allow people to do whatever the heck they want to you, but you are becoming more fair in a holistic way, and in a way that is also just more, that creates more room for creativity, creates more room for the things that are not top priority, that are not super serious, that do not help the bottom line. The way that I'm feeling this is, imagine you are an emperor of a kingdom that doesn't have any allocation, like no funds for creative expression, like for creative programs. There's no funds for like art programs, for museums or anything like that. You have a kingdom and no creativity. That leads to stagnation, because creativity drives innovation. And I know this sounds kind of abstract, and I know I'm talking about a kingdom, but that's just a metaphor. And that will apply whichever area of your life you feel this resonates for, because it's about allowing room for creative expression, for things to not make sense, allowing room for things to inspire, to be in awe of things, of like, I don't understand that. Because the emperor that has this kingdom where there's no room for creativity, that is such a drab kingdom, and it deprives its constituents. It's not the word, but you know what? It deprives its people from a whole area of life. And that's why I think this Justice card has come out too, because it's like, no, we have to make sure that we like leave room for that. So what's coming full circle is a lot of, again, I know I keep saying inspired action, but there's a lot of creativity here. And in order to really embrace that creativity, we have to not take ourselves so seriously. We have to soften, right? So now I'm thinking of when people have really high expectations imagine you're sitting down to paint a picture and you want it to be realistic. You want it to be perfect on the first try. If you bring too much high expectations into that, you will never finish that painting because you're always going to work on perfecting it, versus the energy that this reading is trying to get you to embrace more of and to integrate more of is seeing that empty canvas, and instead of being completely overwhelmed by it, just taking a whole bunch of paint in your hands and creating a finger, making it messy, making it primal, making it instinctive. And then once you've made the mess, then it's kind of like, okay, now let's see where we go from here. Then pick up a brush, then pick up, whatever kind of fine tools you have. But this is really about allowing for things that are less defined and less mature, even just to be more drawn out by your intuitive abilities, and to allow that to coexist so that it can actually really kind of feed your authority. It actually really supports your empowerment. All right, let's get some cards from this deck. Spirit, any advice for group 3? Any advice for group 3 on how to integrate this? What is coming full circle? Any advice? Absolutely. Whoa! Look at that. I like that you have such royal energies. We got the Emperor for you, and we got Queen. And we have feels so right. Okay, so this being the advice for what it is that's coming full circle really indicates that you are supposed to, and it's interesting because we have the Emperor and now we have a Queen. Now, we don't have to go through the exact hierarchy, right? Because there in this deck there is no Empress card, so this also counts as an Empress. So it's almost as if we went from Emperor to Empress, and I love that because that's really fair, actually. Like the Empress could have easily come out over here as the Star card as well, because it is really about the inception of things, and the inception of things needs a lot of nurturing, holistic acceptance so that it can become something, right? And feel so right, again, we're talking about intuitive knowledge. What's coming full circle for you is that in the ways that you are establishing yourself in the world, you've have had times where you become a little bit rigid and a little bit too mature, and in comes Tinkerbell and is like, here, remember pixie dust? And that allows to have a little bit of grace for yourself. You're not losing any of your authority just because you're doing something that is, just because you're engaging in something that is maybe a little bit messy or a little bit more primal, right? I'm still thinking about the finger paint. You're not losing any of your authority by experimenting. I think that's what's coming through. And feel so right is also talking about things being a two-way street here, especially if we are talking about a contract, right? Things being a two-way street. So again, the Queen energy is kind of like, yeah, we want to embrace our, bring balance into the masculine and feminine energy within us, which the feminine is like the inception and the masculine is the action that follows through, but it comes and goes, right? So they both have to have their place. And so we're really talking about an integration of those two in an inspired way. Beautiful. All right, we are going to get one last oracle card, and this one we are going to read from the booklet. So Spirit, any last advice for group 3? Any last advice? Absolutely. Did I not say liberty? Did I say liberty earlier? I feel like I said it just a couple minutes ago. I may have. Number 2, choices, confidence, letting go, self-determination. This card shows a woman standing in profile. A birdcage hangs from her hair, and she is about to release her winged friend into the night. The stars and the moon are guiding the little bird's way. The woman has plucked a special star from the sky to help shepherd the bird's journey. This card stands for the freedom you have to choose your own way in life. Don't let others decide for you. You have the power to liberate yourself from both external and internal cages. Many of the obstacles we face are ones we create ourselves. Once we realize we've created them, we have the power to release them. I love that because I do feel like this indicates that there is, and look at all these blues, that in terms of what's coming full circle, with this Emperor card, I think there is a part of you that you've held captive. And by liberating that, you just allow more creative expression and you allow yourself to really kind of engage in a way that lets you live freely as well. Because you know what's coming through now too with the Emperor is how the way that sometimes we judge other people for their choices, and that can come through very strongly when we are actually somewhat envious of their ability to live out that freedom because we've enacted some internal limitations on our own freedom. And so that, I think, is coming through with the Hanged Man now as well, with the Emperor going to the Hanged Man, that there are ways in which you have limited yourself and you're breaking free from that, and then that allows you to kind of like unlimit. You're like unlocking things one by one. You're unlocking and thereby softening in the process and becoming much more attuned on how to navigate things holistically. Yeah, that's beautiful. I am going to leave it there. Thank you so much for hanging out. I really hope that it resonates, that it helps. If you would like to book a personal reading, you can do so on my website. It is linked below. I will never DM you or send you any messages to sell you a reading. You can only book through my website. Do not get scammed by fake accounts. But on my website, I do offer contactless readings. I offer live readings and natal chart readings, astrology readings, all that stuff. You can find that linked below. But other than that, I hope I get to read for you again sometime. Until then, take care.